Hello and welcome to the broadcast this Thursday night. Our top stories.
Tonight, Ezra Chiloba claws back.
Oh, it's been reported a lot in the media about me and, created a monster out of me.
Ex-IEBC CEO's account of how electoral body lost billions in flawed procurement. Also tonight, Parliament examines NHIF expenditure. And their report reveals a national insurer in dire need of fresh medicine. Plus, the top guns taking over at the Firearms Licensing Board.
I'm actually very disturbed and concerned that in the past the process of licensing firearms has been riddled with corruption.
What the 7-member team has in its sights. And also tonight, ghost doctors in Baringo.
Hospitali moja, madaktari sita. Hawako? Sita kwa kabarnet.
KMPDU demands apology for governor's haunting claims.
NTV Tonight with Smriti Vidyarthi.
And Flora Atieno is our sign language interpreter tonight. Twalib Abdallah Mbarak has been nominated for the position of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chief Executive Officer, subject to approval by the National Assembly. Mbarak was among 14 shortlisted candidates interviewed for the position. He beat a field that included current Deputy Chief Executive Officer Michael Mubea and former KDF spokesman and former Kenya Defence Forces spokesman Cyrus Odhiambo Oguna. Well, Twalib's name will be forwarded to Parliament for approval. Troubles for suspended Chief Executive Officer of the National Hospital Insurance Fund, Geoffrey Mwangi, may be far from over after a parliamentary committee linked him to major scandals at the firm. The National Assembly's Public Investment Committee wants the fund's top management investigated for possible loss of public funds running into hundreds of millions of shillings. And as NTV's Silas Apollo reports, the losses are said to be a result of inflated tender prices and disregard of procurement laws.
A report tabled before Parliament by the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee says the public risk losing funds at the National Hospital Insurance Fund due to negligence and haphazard spending by its top managers. The expenses were either incurred outside normal procurement procedures or through inflation of prices of goods and services. The committee lists some of the projects, such as the construction of a multi-story car park whose construction began in the 2015-2016 and the 2016-2017 financial year, and as one of those whose building was marred by controversies and inconsistencies. NHIF is said to have entered into an agreement for the construction of the car park at a cost of 909 million shillings. However, the sum was later revised upwards to 1.2 billion shillings, representing approximately 30% above the original contract sum. And although records show that the car park was completed in July 2008 at a total cost of 3.3 billion shillings, a further amount of 626 million shillings and 4.7 million shillings were incurred between the years of 2009 and 2011. NHIF management is also on the spot over the proposed resource centre in Karen, whose ownership is at the centre of a dispute. The insurance company is said to have paid 1.4 billion shillings as down payment for construction works. It was, however, impossible to ascertain whether NHIF got value for money since the land remained underdeveloped due to the ongoing dispute over ownership. The NHIF Board of Management has also been accused of investing 600 million shillings at the fund's account at the Consolidated Bank for purposes that were not made clear. The Public Investment Committee now wants the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to probe the matter and charge top management of the firm. Suspended NHIF Chief Executive Officer Geoffrey Mwangi and Director of Finance Wilbert Kurgat are facing charges of conspiracy to obstruct justice and disobedience of court orders. They are out on a 500,000 shillings cash bail pending the hearing of their case. Police arrested the two on claims that they had failed to cooperate with investigators probing the possible loss of 2 billion shillings at the state agency. The recommendations by the Public Investments Committee could mean more trouble for the top management of the NHIF should the DCI and the EACC act on them. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Now, former IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba says that the commissioners were keen on fixing him with the audit carried out exposing the misappropriation of about 9 billion shillings at the commission to cover their tracks on embezzling funds. Appearing before the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee, Chiloba told MPs that his former boss, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati, was forcing tenders to his law firm down the Commission's throat. NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi reports that the blame for the ills associated with the 2017 elections is on at the Commission.
The former chief executive officer at the country's electoral body, IEBC, got his opportunity to appear before the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee to tell his side of the story after he was adversely mentioned with regard to massive wastage at the commission where he was the accounting officer.
I know it's been reported a lot in the media about me and, created a monster out of me. But I can tell you that I've been faithful in my work.
Chiloba, who was fired as a result of simmering bad blood between him and the Commission's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, blamed the commissioners for usurping his powers as the head of the Secretariat. He said Chebukati had parallel meetings with some commissioners to ratify matters not discussed by the whole team. It is now becoming a ping-pong between IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati and his former CEO Ezra Chiloba, as each one of them tries to outwit the other in an effort to throw each other under the bus for what happened in the 2017 elections.
Beyond this printing tender, is there any other that you may think that Chairman had interest in terms of himself benefiting?
We had shortlisted firms to provide legal services to the Commission through pre-qualification. So his former law, he was actually then part of the law firm. So when it came to the Commission, he claimed to have resigned. But when work was being distributed, his law firm was also given work.
Should the commissioners, especially the chairman, have direct contact with potential vendors? Is that how it's done, even the secret tendering, that I'm a commissioner, I can say, look into this, even if that particular plenary meeting, that decision had not been made?
We had just finished a meeting where we had talked about even names of the vendors. But he never disclosed to us that there was another vendor somewhere that he intended us to consider.
Chiloba also accused Chebukati and some of the commissioners of tampering with the minutes that they had already prepared, and by the time he was signing, he was being brought for a new document.
That if you look at the entire context, when you read one line, which is a fair representation of the resolution of the Commission, there's so many other things happening on the side.
Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma has written to the Clerk of the National Assembly seeking to have her name expunged from a report by the Public Accounts Committee that had implicated her in the controversial 1.7 billion shilling National Police Service insurance cover tender during the 2014-2015 financial year. Now, Juma, who served as the Principal Secretary at the State Department of Interior at the time, says that she took office after the contract had already been signed and executed. The CS insists that the contract was signed and executed on the 12th of August 2014, whereas she was transferred to the State Department of Interior as the PS on the 14th of August 2014. Juma says she officially took charge on the 20th of August of that year. CS Juma wants the clerk to correct the anomaly, saying that it could otherwise disparage and damage her reputation. The report had accused Juma of awarding the lucrative tender to one of the highest bidders at 1.74 billion shillings, although it was almost 3 times higher than the lowest bid of 629 million shillings. The report recommended the CS be investigated with a view to being prosecuted if found culpable. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, that's KMPDU, has sharply differed with Baringo Governor Stanley Kiptis, who claimed that the county government was paying 6 ghost doctors at 300,000 shillings each per month for services not rendered. And the union instead faulted the government for failing to implement the doctors' collective bargaining agreement that has resulted in the shortage of doctors in the county. NTV's Seth Olale has those details.
The Cabernet County Referral Hospital in Baringo County is at the center of a heated debate regarding 6 absentee doctors who continue to enjoy a monthly salary totaling to close to 2 million shillings for services not rendered. However, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, through its North Rift Region Branch Secretary Ismail Ayabei, is reading mischief in the county government's claim.
As far as we know, and as far as human resource practices are concerned, when someone resigns from service, it is the responsibility of the employer to stop their salaries and not the employee. Having that the doctors have written their resignation letters, that's enough to stop their salaries.
Baringo Governor Stanley Kiptis had termed the 6 medical practitioners as ghost doctors who are each drawing 300,000 shillings in absentia.
Madaktari 6 hawako 6 kwa Cabernet, na tumekuta hivi moja tu hospitali moja. Wacha nikuje Ravina Mogotio uone mpaka Marigat na Kabartuni. Daktari moja anapata 300,000. Hebu times 6 ngapi ya hospitali moja?
The governor also revealed that an audit conducted by his administration had revealed that only 24 out of 80 doctors on the county's payroll were genuine, with the remainder having either resigned or retired. Furthermore, the practitioners deny that each of the said doctors earns 300,000 shillings each from the county government.
Doctors are paid around 200,000 gross salaries in Baringo, so the governor needs to tell us the 100,000 where he's paying to.
The union wants the county government to expedite the doctors' CBA implementation and is at the same time pushing for formation of a health service commission that it says will be a recipe of the universal health coverage. Seth Olale, NTV.
Elsewhere, matatus will not be allowed to operate within the CBD from Monday next week. This is according to a public notice circulated by the Nairobi County Government. The ban that comes close to 4 weeks since the start of the enforcement of the Mishuki rules is expected to draw controversy.
The ban, filed under Gazette Notice 4479, was issued on 12th May 2017, expected to come to effect in September of the same year. However, following a stakeholders meeting, the newly elected Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko decided to postpone the operationalization of the ban, albeit with warning.
No double parking kwa stage yoyote ile. No obstruction kwa stage yoyote ile. No U-turn kwa stage yoyote ile. Noise pollution kwa CBD. Kama lazima watu wasikie hewa, anza kuweka jogoro ukiendelea. Basi karibu na maofisi.
The governor will then assign more than 400 traffic marshals to ensure that the chaotic industry and its players meet his guidelines. The ban then morphed to a less uncomfortable decongestion strategy whose execution proved impossible. In the new strategy, every SACCO was to maintain just 2 vehicles on their designated section at any time of the day. That was 3 months ago. The county has decided to revert to the earlier ban that will now see all public service vehicles drop off passengers at assigned termini. All vehicles accessing the CBD from Waiyaki Way, Uhuru Highway, Kipande Road and Limuru Road will end their trip at the Fig Tree terminus along Muranga Road. This also goes for commuters travelling from Thika Road up to and including Riru and Kiambu. All vehicles that go past Riru and branch off before or at Kenol Town on Nyeri Meru Nairobi Road will drop off their passengers at the Desai Service Road terminus. Those that go past Kenol on Nyeri Meru Nairobi Road and all upcountry vehicles accessing Nairobi via Waiyaki Way will use the Park Road terminus. All vehicles using Juja Road and Ngara Road and Park Road to access CBD will end their trip at the Ngara Road terminus. All urban and peri-urban routes using Mombasa Road and Langata Road are assigned the Hakati terminus. All urban and peri-urban routes from Ngong Road will use the railway terminus, while all vehicles from Jogoo Road and Lusaka Road will use the Muthurwa terminus. All high-capacity vehicles from upcountry will drop off their passengers at the Machakos terminus. It is anticipated that there will be a circular route connecting all termini to CBD and Upper Hill. Diametric routes will also use the central bus station. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
All right, well, if you use a matatu to get into the CBD, let me know how that will affect you and your general thoughts on that issue. Drop me a tweet at Smriti Vidyarthi or at NTV Kenya. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Elsewhere, the National Assembly's Health Committee has given the Kenya Medical Association 1 month to look into new proposals that will guide the fees charged by doctors. KMA had rejected attempts by the government to impose the new rules, saying the implementation will inevitably violate the rights of private practitioners to earn a decent living and that it will undermine the self-regulation mechanisms. Here's NTV's Ken Mijungu.
Parliament has relaxed its earlier directive that would have seen the country revert to the 2006 pricing guidelines that had been abandoned 2 years ago. This afternoon, the Health Committee of the National Assembly agreed to give the Kenya Medical Association 30 days to re-examine the proposals and submit their thoughts on the same.
Looking at even the cost of drugs and medication in Kenya compared to other countries, we are on the higher side. And as we look towards achievement of UHC, we must look at affordability. Whether it's affordability when you go to see a doctor, how much you're going to be charged, affordability of the kind of drugs that one can go and buy.
The new guidelines would have replaced the existing medical practitioners and dentist rules of 2016 with a second edition of the professional fee rules guidelines of 2006, which, among other things, prescribed a drop in the fees patients pay to doctors. In the new proposals, for example, a specialist cannot charge more than 4,000 in consultation fee, down from the 7,500 in the old guidelines. For delivery, patients, for example, would be required to pay a maximum of 40,000 shillings, down from the 96,000 shillings they currently pay. The Health Committee also gave the medics 6 months to come up with reasonable cost of various kinds of treatments. This was made possible by the coming into effect of the 2016 guidelines. If implemented, the cost of Medicare would significantly come down in line with the universal healthcare quest that is part of President Kenyatta's Agenda 4 items.
If you look at affordability, for us to be able to look back and say UHC is actually being rolled out, the question of costs becomes very important. Be it the cost of the consultations that we have in hospitals, be it the cost of medicines, be it the cost of equipment that we procure and how then we lay them to work.
But these developments were preceded by a strongly worded letter from the Medical Association signed by the KMA President Jacqueline Kitulu. In her conclusion to a 2-page letter, Kitulu noted, quote, KMA will vigorously oppose any attempts to set private medical practitioners' fee outside of the established mechanisms in the law and professional codes. The letter also indicated that the Kenya Medical Association has always held that universal healthcare coverage must be public-led and tax-funded in public facilities over which the state has full control, leaving the private sector to compete based on the market forces. She noted that attempting to control the fees charged by professionals outside of the self-regulatory mechanisms of the medical board is not only against the law but also violates the rights of private medical practitioners to earn a decent living.
There's need to review, and we mandated the board to go and review. And for us, we had a comfort. When we discussed with the doctors within the committee, we asked ourselves, the costs that were there, we looked at several of them at 2006. Are they reasonable costs? And they said yes.
This evening, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board welcomed the 30 days of reflection in which they should come up with their proposals on how the fees should be charged and implemented. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
We've got plenty more for you during this broadcast, but first, a quick break as we've hit 1:15 the hour. Thanks very much for staying with us. The National Assembly Health Committee members today expressed concern that 70% of funds paid out by the NHIF under the Universal Healthcare Initiative were going to private hospitals. Health Cabinet Secretary Cicely Kariuki was at pains to explain how public hospitals would get the lion's share of the funds from the national insurer. MPs also questioned if the programme would be sustained through NHIF alone. Eunice Omolo has more.
As the country prepares to roll out the pilot phase of the Universal Health Programme, the Minister of Health and members of the National Assembly and Senate had a sit-down to iron out outstanding issues.
The fifth estate.
Key among the MPs concerned was whether public hospitals will benefit from the programme, given a huge chunk of NHIF funds go to private facilities.
We realize that the biggest, almost 70% of the money that we are giving to NHIF is going to the private facilities. And why? Because people are going to the private facilities because that's where they can get good health care and good services. Which plan do we have to revert for these services to be given by the public sector and to ensure that this 70% will go to the public facilities vis-a-vis the amount of money and billions of money that is currently going to the private facilities.
The counties and the Ministry of Health have been drumming up support for enrollment under NHIF and UHC card care ahead of the rollout in Kisumu, Isiolo, Machakos and Nyeri counties.
So far, we have registered at least 60% of the households in Nyeri County.
We also needed to know how the various packages, including Linda Mama, funds for the elderly, and indigents and school-going children will be collapsed into one package.
Linda Mama and money for the elderly, because it's important we understand. As we move in the pilot counties, all these different pools are going to be collapsed into one, and part of the resources that we'll be utilizing will be out of the previously existing pools. I say this because a pregnant woman who would otherwise utilize Linda Mama is the same person who would require to access other facilities and services.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to officially launch the program on the 13th of December this year. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
Now, the Firearms Licensing Board has a new team of 7 members that will be led by Charles Mukindia. 1 week after disbanding the previous team, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has reconstituted the board, the third such major shake-up to be made by an Interior Cabinet Secretary since its inception in March 2016. Well, he becomes the third chairman to lead the FLB, which has in the recent past been hit with allegations of irregular allocations of certificates to civilians, who in turn have used them inappropriately, causing physical and mental harm to the public.
A new team takes over at the Firearms Licensing Board less than 10 months after Major General retired Charles Mwanzia took over office from Major General retired Enoch Sasia, who had been at the helm since the board was formed by former Interior CS Joseph Nkaiseri in March 2016. At the time of inception, the original team of 9 members was expected to serve a 3-year term, but barely 2 years into their term, changes were made that not only affected the chair, but also the board secretary position, which changed hands from Samuel Kimaru, who is the current traffic commandant, to Nelson Munyi.
I'm actually very disturbed and concerned that in the past the process of licensing firearms has been riddled with corruption, incompetence, and misbehavior, which has led in certain cases with guns in illegal hands.
According to Geneva-based Small Arms Survey, Kenya has about 750,000 firearms in civilian hands, with only 10,000 of this having been officially registered by the state. The Interior Ministry has recently admitted to the fact that tens if not hundreds of firearm certificates in the country are fake. Thus, the decision by the Interior CS to disband the board last week and reconstitute it with fresh blood.
We've been working quietly in the last few months to create a digital record of all those who hold genuine and legit firearm certificates. The exercise is actually about complete, and we're issuing new certificates in that process. And we will make the announcement when that exercise is complete that anyone who will not be holding the new certificate will be deemed to be holding an illegal firearm.
With 45,790 guns held by the military and 51,527 guns held by police, Kenya is still faced with the challenge of military-grade arms being found among the public. According to the Firearms Act, AK-47, G3 and MP5 rifles are out of bounds for civilians but have been found in the homes of high-profile personalities in the last year. The law, however, is not clear on the number of guns an individual can have at a specific time. Though the license is worth about 2,500 shillings, it is a rigorous process for any individual seeking to be a gun owner. They must undergo physical, psychological testing as well as prove to the police the need to own one. A few individuals have been investigated for misuse of their pieces in public. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Former journalist Moses Dola has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for killing his wife, Wambui Kabiru. High Court Judge Roslyn Korir, who passed the sentence, had found him guilty of manslaughter in October.
It was the day of reckoning for former journalist Moses Dola, who was accompanied by family and friends to the Milimani courts. Dola appeared cool, calm and collected as he waited to know his fate after he was found guilty of manslaughter for causing the death of his wife, former NTV journalist Wambui Kabiru.
The accused also...
High Court Judge Roslyn Korir pointed out the murder trial has been punctuated with a free flow of information between relatives of both parties, who even wept during trial. The law allows the court to deploy the process of reconciliation. Dola has been sentenced to 10 years in jail for his role in the death of Wambui Kabiru.
The accused has 14 days right of appeal against both judgment and sentence.
Dola, on his own admission, told the court he did not intend to kill his wife and that he was sorry it happened. Lady Justice Roslyn Korir noted that though Dola was remorseful, Kabiru's family is still bitter and is demanding justice.
It is a case that brings out the need to infuse into a criminal trial the principles of humanity, healing and reconciliation.
On October 5th, Judge Korir found Dola guilty of manslaughter and ordered the cancellation of his bond terms. Sarah Wambui Kabiru was found dead on May 1st, 2011 in their house in Umoja Estate, Nairobi. Her lifeless body was found in their locked bedroom, carefully tucked in bed. They had a son who was 2 years old at the time. Rozongoi, NTV.
All right, at that point, let's take a breather here on NTV Tonight. The business news is up next, and I'll be back for that. It's 9:30. Welcome to the business news on NTV tonight. Now, the financial position of energy distributor Kenya Power is worse than reported. According to the Office of the Auditor General, the listed firm failed to adhere to the required accounting standards when reporting on the status of its debt. In a report, the Auditor General says Kenya Power failed to honour agreements attached to 59 billion shillings worth of loans, indicating that the company has gone against the requirements of the Capital Markets Authority. Now, more details on this story will be available in your copy of the Business Daily tomorrow, so make sure you get a hold of it. Confusion among agencies tasked with the development, rehabilitation and maintenance of road infrastructure is partly to blame for the sorry state of some roads in the country. Now, this emerged during a roads inspection tour conducted by the Kenya Roads Board in Nyanza region. Oko Okusa reports that the disharmony has been aggravated by a recent reclassification of certain roads in the country.
Among the roads, the confusion which is majorly experienced between the Kenya National Highways Authority (KENHA) and Kenya Rural Roads Authority (KERA) is said to have adversely affected is the Rodi Kopany Sori Road, found in Homa Bay County.
It falls under KERA without any doubt. The only issue is the lack of capacity and resources for KERA to be able to manage that particular road. And that is why we are seeking to review the classification.
We are happy to tell Homa Bay people that this road will be taken back to Kenya with their recommendations. And with that, the maintenance will start.
Engineer Roa wondered why the agencies were still embroiled in ownership issues, yet in January 2016, a road register was gazetted that clearly outlined and classified the national road network same to county roads.
Nationally, Class S, A and B are managed by the Kenya National Highways Authority, and Class C are managed by the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. The urban network among those classes, SABC, is managed by the Kenya Urban Roads Authority.
Engineer Roa said that the board had commenced a review process to clean up the gazetted road register of any wrongful classifications and omissions before the end of the first quarter of the next financial year. Kenya Roads Board directors have been on a 5-day roads inspection tour which took them to Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Kisii and Nyamira counties. Oko Okusa, NTV.
Now, the government and private sector are being challenged to adopt innovative financing solutions to support the resolutions made during the inaugural Blue Economy Conference, which ended on Wednesday here in Nairobi. According to players in the investment advisory space, the state could take advantage of the public-private partnership framework to tailor solutions which would help address the funding requirements of the Sustainable Blue Economy agenda.
If you are trying to rehabilitate the water towers, for example, we can do a forest fund. A forest fund is you get a fund that raises money and invests in forests, and it's licensed to cultivate forests. So it has two elements. One, the PPP investors in it will benefit from the sawmills, from the timber, from the wood, but at the same time, it's also increasing the catchment areas for the country. So you get a win-win situation for both sides.
The government is looking into filtering sites with adult content as a measure to tame the rising cases of teenage pregnancies. Speaking today during the 10th CIO 100 Symposium and Awards Forum held in Naivasha, ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Mucheru instructed the Communications Authority to look into ways of limiting access of pornographic sites for teenagers following the rising cases of teenage pregnancy that was witnessed during the recently conducted Kenya Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. Well, this, as Musheru said, that the Data Protection Bill and policy has already gone through the public participation stage and will be tabled in Parliament in a few months. The event also saw technology company Microsoft push for tech companies to start leveraging on artificial intelligence in a bid to solve cybersecurity and ease operations. Microsoft recently partnered with Access Partnership on a white paper on artificial intelligence, pushing for the adoption of artificial intelligence in Africa.
In light of what is going on, I have directed the Communications Authority to immediately begin looking at how we can begin to enforce some of these systems of filtering to ensure that we're protecting our young people. We cannot take advantage of all the technology that is coming and still take some of the bad. So we need to find ways of ensuring that the bad things are also left out.
The government's recent push to empower the small and medium enterprises sector is set to receive a major boost as the country hosts the East African Community Jua Kali exhibition next week. Victor Kiprop reports on the prospects of the regional exhibition that will be held in Eldoret between the 2nd and 10th of December.
Small and medium enterprises (SMEs) constitute about 98% of all businesses in Kenya and contribute approximately 40% of the country's gross domestic product (GDP). However, the sector has for years remained largely neglected until last month when President Uhuru Kenyatta pledged to refocus his administration's attention on the sector. The upcoming regional Jua Kali exhibition, the government believes, will go a long way in shaping this new drive.
This annual exhibition is extremely important because it's intended to help the SMEs to have their products, help them have their product access the East African market. So we regard this exhibition highly in terms of our agenda to grow the SME sector.
Dubbed Jua Kali Nguvu Kazi, the annual exhibition is expected to attract more than 1,500 delegates and exhibitors from across East Africa to showcase products manufactured in the region.
I want to encourage particularly small traders in Kenya. Even if you are not exhibiting, you are welcome to see what is being exhibited, particularly from the other East African countries. SMEs and this conference is meant to enhance the regional trade between small traders in the East African countries. For a very long time, countries have been struggling to encourage trade between multinationals.
There are about 7.41 million SMEs in Kenya, estimated to employ more than 75% of the country's working population, but only 1.56 million of them are licensed. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
That's something to look forward to. Elsewhere, the Central Organization of Trade Unions, that's COTU, will move to an international court to challenge tea multinational companies operating in Kenya over the violation of its workers' rights. The Secretary General, Francis Atwoli, says the companies have for 5 years refused to implement collective bargaining agreements of over 300,000 members of the Kenya Plantation and Agricultural Workers Union. Atwoli says the companies, which are operating in Sotik in Bomet, Kericho and Nandi Hills in Nandi, have denied to review the working terms for their workers since 2013.
Through Federation of Kenya Employers, through our parent Ministry of Labour, and through other initiatives, and even we have used diplomacy to bring these employers on table, and when they come to meet us, they are always adamant in an area of reviewing terms and conditions.
Right, from that, we're taking a quick break on NTV Business. There's more coming up. Thanks for staying with us. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta says the Kenya Defence Forces will continue their operation in Somalia until security is restored in the country. It's because of this that Kenya will continue to build capacity in training more of the people being recruited to KDF so that they are in a position to dispense their duties in the neighbouring country as is required of them. President Kenyatta was speaking at a pass-out parade at the Kenya Military Academy in Lanet, Nakuru County, where new recruits trained to offer special services within the army were graduating. 138 out of the 151 graduates received their training at the Kenyatta University, while the rest were trained in the United Kingdom and Tanzania. 84 have been attached to the Kenya Army, 30 in the Kenya Air Force, and 17 are in the Kenyan Navy. 7 others from Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi and Rwanda will be deployed to their respective countries.
The Kenya Defence Forces has demonstrated a track record for discipline and respect that is respected nationally and internationally. I also take cognizance of the evolving nature of the cadet training in this academy. The continuous review ensures that our military training is at par with other world-class military training institutions.
All right, we've hit time for the sports news, and tonight Sean Cardovillis is driving that agenda.
A very good evening to you. Now, Kenya launched their Dubai Sevens campaign on Friday against Scotland at 8:44 a.m. as the new World Rugby Sevens series gets underway. Kenya is in Pool B and will play France at 11:44 a.m. before facing last season's series runners-up Fiji at 6:06 p.m. Kenya time. Last season, Shuja collected 10 points in Dubai after finishing 7th, losing 12 points to 19 to Australia in the 5th place semis. Meanwhile, Kenya Lionesses dropped to the Dubai Sevens Challenge Trophy after losing all their day one matches. The Kenyans lost 7-34 to the world champions New Zealand before going down 12-27 to Ireland and 0-19 to Russia. Kenya has not moved in the latest FIFA rankings and remains in 105th position. Harambee Stars failed to play a game during the last FIFA international break after their 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Sierra Leone on the 18th of November was cancelled. The West Africans are currently serving an indefinite ban from FIFA due to government interference in the Sierra Leone Football Association. Uganda remains the top-ranked side from the East Africa region after jumping 4 places to 75th. Vihiga United striker Amos Kigade has been named the SportPesa LG Player of the Month for September-October after he almost singularly helped the Western Kenyan side avoid relegation from the Kenya Premier League with a late flurry of goals. Vihiga were making their top-flight debut and seemed destined for an immediate drop as the 2018 season hit the home stretch. However, they turned things around in their final 6 games, winning thrice and losing only once. Kenyan coach Hamisi Mohamed will tour the Arsenal soccer schools in London, and that's from the 6th to the 12th of December. The trip is fully sponsored by the digital money transfer service World Remit, who are the online partners of English Premier League side Arsenal. While in London, Hamisi will receive coaching tips from top coaches at the Arsenal Soccer School. Mohamed is one of the founders of a mixed academy called Young Talent Soccer Academy, which is based in Ngong area in Kajiado County, which has started after the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Arsenal are currently in action against Wolfskla Poltava as the Europa League takes center stage tonight. First-team players such as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Mesut Ozil,
All right, Sean, thanks very much and welcome to the Primetime Bulletin. Great to have you with us. All right, that does it on NTV tonight. It's been a pleasure. Much more expected tomorrow. I'm Smriti Vidyarthi. See you then.